Thanks so much. Okay, my name is Alejandro Bugacov. I'm a data scientist at FaceBase. I will talk a little bit about requesting human subject data. So there's something that sometimes doesn't come across very clearly is that FaceBase has a very rich, large, and diverse collection of human subject data. So, for example, we have, just to give a few, just to name a few of the most popular ones, but we have many more. We have, for example, a data set from a cohort from Tanzania that has about 4,000 facial scans. These scans are mostly in OBJ format. This data set also has a sort of companion data set in dbGaP that has all the genetic information, genetic data, and you can, genotypic data, and you can get, really get all that data through FaceBase too. I mean, you can navigate from FaceBase to the dbGaP, it will point you there. Anyways, for example, we have another set that has it's about 1,000 scans from North American children. We have a data set from a cohort with that focuses on the Phelan-McDermid syndrome. We have many data sets that have RNA-seq, ChIP-seq, ATAC-seq analysis of human fetal tissue and also a few other ones. We have, for example, a large collection of sort of statistical and questionnaire data from oral health data from Northern Appalachian households. This is a very broad study that have followed all these households and collected all this very rich data, and it's very well organized. We have a very large number of data sets of whole exome sequencing of very, very precise cases. And we also have a lot of new human subject data that is being loaded or is going to be added to our repository in the coming months and years. So it's a very large collection. And all this data is public and free, but since it's human, the access is controlled. So it's not like in all the other data sets like for mouse or chick that mostly Rob was showing you, that you can, once you get to the page, you can click on a file and download it directly to your machine and you own the data. So in this data, it's also available for you, but we don't have a direct link to download your data to your computer. So the way you access this data is going through what we call a data access request, which is basically a three-step process in a way, you can think about it. So the first step is you gather your institutional documentation, because in order to be given to you, for given data sets, they require a different type of documentation, like some may require an IRB, others don't, but you may have to gather a few other details of your institution on how you're going to keep the data and stuff like that. Then you go to our website, which I'm going to show you next, and you fill in this data access request form. And then that form once you finish filling in the form, that form gets into the NIDCR Data Access Committee, or DAC, which reviews your submission. They go over your documentation, they make sure that everything's fine. And when that gets approved, they let us know that you are approved to download that data set. We contact you, package the data, and make the data available for you to download. And that data, your access is valid for 1 year. If you need the data longer, you need to renew it. And that's not a very complicated process. So before I show you, so the first step is typically to complete the data use certificate agreement, which I will show you. We have a link to it. You just need to print it, gather some signatures from your institution. Sometimes it most of the time requires a signature from the IT director, the principal investigator, if you're not the principal investigator, and your institutional signing official. So these three people have to sign this document that which you will later upload to our site. Then you go to FaceBase, you log in as a user, and then you go to our DAR form, enter the information, and that basically it's how you create the data, how to request the data. So let me now go and give you a demonstration so how you will do that. So so you go to facebase.org, and the entry point to request this data is under policies. You go requesting control access data. Here you basically have step-by-step, very well documented how you do this step-by-step. I'm gonna follow you. So let me show you a little bit. So the first step is what I just mentioned, which is read and complete your data user certificate agreement. Here's if you follow this link, you will get to the document that you download, and then you get signatures. Then second step is complete the DAR form. So I'm going to show you here. Here are all the steps, everything I'm going to show you, but the entry point is basically going to this data access request page. That takes you to basically the list of data access requests. So if you're not logged in yet, the public can see the data access request that has already been approved. That's a public information. So in order to create a new data access request, you will need to sign in, you need to log in as a user. So I will click here, log in. Actually, let me make this a little bit bigger so that it's easier to see. So I will click log in. I typically use my Globus ID to log in, but you can log in using your organization information. So I will click log in here. I will select one user that is basically only just a regular user. And now you see that the create button show up in my interface. So I will click create to start filling in the form. And this form has about 15 different fields that you need to fill in. First is the title. This is a test, but basically, or demo, DAR. But basically here you will enter the title of your research. You will select who's the principal investigator for this request. I will search for myself. If you don't exist, or if you're not in our data set as a user yet, you can click here, create new, and enter your information and create you put your name, your full name, your first name, last name, and email, and that's how you create a user, and then you select it as a principal investigator. If you are if you have a mentor, then there's another, you can select it in here too. Then here you have if everything that has a red asterisk are required fields, so you need to fill them in. I will just put test one, but basically you have to fill in your research statement, mostly from your description. Same thing here, non-technical summary of your proposed research. Test two, how the proposed research is consistent with the data use limitation for the requested data. So later you will see that every data set that you request has a set of data use limitations that stipulate how the data can be used based on the characteristics of the data. So you will have to here enter some information to say how your research is consistent with that. So you will fill that in with something. Here is very important. You will enter some details of how you will be able to protect the data once you receive it, because this is protected data. So you give some information about your environment, so to show that the environment where you will be using and accessing the data and keeping the data is secure. Here, if you have some collaborators that will work with you in the project, you can list them here. These are we have one field for the collaborators in your organization, and then another field for collaborators outside your organization. So those are basically the main information ones. Then it comes some, if the data sets that you select will require a data B, an IRB, and you have an IRB, this is where you will indicate that. You will enter your IRB protocol ID, the expiration date, the Federal Assurance number, FWA number for your IRB, and if the data sets require an IRB, you will be here. You will be able to you will require to upload the IRB approval data and the IRB protocol. So you can click here, select file from the browser, and directly select the file from your computer, and that gets uploaded. Then you will also have to, here's where you upload the DUC document that I mentioned earlier. And then the way it works is that, and first you submit this form, and once you have completed all the process, you will print out the form that I will show you later, and then you will take it to the people in your institution that needs to sign it. You will make a copy, you will scan it, and then you will come back here to the DAR, and here where it says select file, you will upload that signed copy of the DAR. And so we manage all that through the status field. So in the beginning, you will leave your status as in progress while you're working on it. So I will now just pretend that I still didn't upload any of the documentation, but I can still create the data, the DAR. So I will click Save, and this DAR is already being created, and now the people at the NIDCR, at this moment, the people from the NIDCR Data Access Control Committee gets notified that you have created this new data access request. And then there's two more steps that you need to do. One is you go through this section that says requested data sets, and here is where you basically select the data sets that you are requesting. So here you go to link records, and you go through the filtering process to select the data sets that you are requesting. And the easiest way to do that is here we have this show filter panel icon, so that allows you, that brings in all these facets. And probably the easier way to narrow this search is by going to our facet that selects whether it's human subject, whether a data set is human subject or not. So we'll click yes. And then, for example, I will select, let's say I'm interested in the facial scans, the most very popular ones. I can actually here select under the experiment type facet. I can select the facial scans. It will show all the facial scans data set. Let's say I'm interested in these three. I will click link in here, and now I can see the three data sets that I'm requesting, and here you have listed the actual data use limitations for this data set. So you can see, for example, the first one it says that IRB approved required. So you will have to have an ID for that data set. But for example, the second one, it doesn't say that you require an ID. So as long as you are using it with this, as long as your intention to use this data matches the data access, the data user limitation, then you'll be okay. And then the next thing you have to do is, once you're done with this process, we will ask you to upload a public encryption key that we will use in order to package your data, encrypt your data, and then we will, once we package your data and we encrypt it with the key that you provide, we will add it here, and then you will come back at the end of the process, you come back here and you will directly download your file. Once you have the file in your computer, you decrypt it using this key, and you're good to go, and you can use your data. So I think that's
great.
Pretty much everything I had in terms of the data access request forms. So if you have any questions, we can answer them now, or you can always send us email.